Hello and welcome back to Soul Shed. Today I wanted to have a little bit of a chat about hand planes really. Um, I have an affinity with hand planes. I like them. It could be a weakness I suppose. I just like using them. I like sharpening them, I like fettling them. They're like toys really. I mean I've got power planers, I've got a hand power plane and I've got um, one of those bread box plane things, planers, and it works fine. But I just like using hand planes. So I thought I'd make a video about two of the planes I use quite often, really, probably use the most, and that's these two. One is a nice old Stanley Bedrock, no, 5.5, and it's a bloomin' booty. I'm chuffed to bits with that. And another is a bit of a Franken Plane, really. And I thought I'd do a little video about these two planes because there's a bit of a story behind both of them. First off, the Bedrock came from my now deceased father-in-law, who was a boat builder. And during the war, he was an apprentice in a boatyard in Foy, and Foy was absolutely full up with D-Day landing ships and barges and landing craft and all sorts of things. That they used to say you could walk from one side of the river to the other across the boats that were in the river because there were so many. Well, they sort of left overnight, and a lot of these ships obviously had their own workmen and they had their own carpenters, ship's carpenters and stuff, and their tools and whatever. Well, to cut a long story short, one carpenter left on his boat without his tool bag, and this plane got left behind in 1944. So it got left behind at the boatyard, and my father-in-law either claimed it, or inherited it, and he used it from I suppose from that time on. And it's had a lot of use. You can probably see by the blade is nearly about wore out, but it still holds a nice edge, and I quite enjoy using it. And I like it because of the history with it and the tale that goes with it. I mean, I don't know if I could ever prove the veracity of that tale, but it's just nice. It's like a family tale, if you like. And God forbid I should ever sell the thing, my wife would probably string me up because it was her dad's. And I wouldn't anyway, because I like it. It's a cracking little tool. Right, so to move on to the second plane, and this is the one I really wanted to talk about, is this originally was a Silverline number 6, and I got it from eBay, and it was only like 15 quid, and it was so cheap. I thought, oh my God, I've got to have that. 15 quid. Well, consequently, when it arrived, I got my 15 quid's worth. It wasn't much of a plane, really. I think it must have been a customer return because there's all sorts of scabs in the Japan in here. And marks, and there's a scab in the case in there, and there's a scab here, which none of that really minds, because I mean it's only cosmetic, and I'm not a plane collector. I do actually like using them. But the worst two things about the plane, as it came from Silverline, was the cap iron. Was the original Silverline cap iron was too small, and it just wouldn't hold the blade and the chip breaker against a frog tightly enough to be able to use it. Every time you tried to use it, the blade would move or it would chatter out of alignment. It was just bloody rubbish, really. And the other thing about it that was pretty poor was the blade itself. I mean, I sharpened and honed the blade several times, and you'd lose an edge just planing, I don't know, a plywood, softwood board. You'd plane a softwood board, and you'd lose your edge, and the plane was blunt again. So it was practically made of Chinesium, I think, the blade. It was absolute rubbish. I was really disappointed with it. But then again, I only paid 15 quid for the thing, so I couldn't complain too much. So following on from that, I sort of like put it in the corner of the shed and didn't use it for ages, really. So I was just so disillusioned with the damn thing. And if it didn't look half attractive, and the fact that I've got no other number 6s, I might have just got rid of the thing. But consequently, I was given a record 4.5 that had a huge great crack down across there. It's just beyond repair, really, or beyond my ability to repair it. So I salvaged it for parts. So now my Silverline plane has got a record frog, a record chip breaker, a record blade, and a record cap iron. And to be honest, it's transformed the thing. It works very well now. I mean, the sole of the base of the plane was pretty flat and pretty good from when I got it. I mean, obviously I checked it and lapped it a little bit, but it was flat and square and fine. once I put some decent hardware on it, in terms of the blade and, well, the items I've mentioned, including the frog, it seems to transform things. It works really well now. So it's a bit of a Franken Plane. Now, would I recommend that you buy a Silverline plane? I wouldn't recommend that, personally. I wouldn't buy another one. This one was a bit of a shock to the system. But with the upgrades I gave it, which were cost minimal, even with the upgrades, I reckon the plane probably cost me, well, the plane cost me 15 quid and I was given the old record, so it only cost me 15 quid. And for a number 6 plane that's working quite well, I think it's probably worth 15 quid now. But at the box, I was almost ready to chuck it away, but there you are. So really, I just wanted to tell the tale of my Stanley Bedrock, which is a dear thing, and my Franken Plane, which I use quite a lot, so I can't complain too much about it. Anyway, that's enough for now. I dare say I'll talk about planes again, because I have quite a few, and I do like them. I have a bit of a weakness for them. So that's all from Soul Shed. Cheers and gone.